Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today I'm playing Farming Simulator 25 and we're going to be testing out the disc harrows. And so there are 7 disc harrows in this game, and I was going to test all 7 just for the gimmick of it, but I'm not going to. I realized it was a horrible idea that was going to really throw off the timescales in this, because this is the smallest disc harrow in the game. It is ridiculously small, and I have it hooked up to a tractor that is way over its horsepower requirement, but is one of the 2 smallest tractors in the game. So I was going to run it with this just kind of because of how funny it would be to use this as our baseline test and compare everything else to it. But this being in the game is just a joke anyway. There's nothing other than maybe running between like olives and or grapes or something like that if you have them real close together. This is totally a useless tool. It's funny that it exists in the game, but realistically speaking, I think it's a good decision for me not to include it. But if you'd really like to see a video of me doing a ridiculously large field with this, maybe a big versus small video where I do the largest disc versus the smallest, let me know down in the comment section. But we're just going to skip past it and move up. So basically, the order that I have these in are in horsepower order. So not necessarily working with, but the ones that require the smallest horsepower tractor to the one that requires the largest, okay? And so you can see for our pieces of equipment, our first one is the KNOCHE, I believe is how you pronounce that, CROSSMAX 300. And just for simplicity's sake, I guess I'll just show you here in the store. That way I don't have to keep wondering which model each one was. But anyway, so like I said, our first one we're going to be testing is going to be the KNOCHE CROSSMAX 300, has a working width of 3 meters, and requires 95 horsepower to use. Our second one is going to be the DALBO POWERCHAIN 800. This is kind of an interesting flex disc sort of thing, and you'll see that when we're working. It's got these big, long, flexible arms that go out. And so that one has an 8-meter working width and requires 180 horsepower to use, so that's our second largest one as far as horsepower is concerned. Then our third largest one as far as horsepower is concerned is the VADERSTAD CARRIER XL 625. This is a more traditional disc design, but it has a lot of extra tillage options on it, so a lot of people will consider it to be a better plow or disc than the DALBO. But if you're going just by working with, this one is a significantly worse disc because it requires 260 horsepower to use, but only has a working width of 6.3 meters, whereas the DALBO requires only 180 horsepower to use and has a working width of 8 meters. So, like I said, they're different types of tools, the DALBO being sort of a kind of a half and half disc and seeder that you can use to plant oilseed radish and grass, as well as disking, as long as you get the seed attachment for it. But anyway, that's the order. We're going to start with this one, go to the DALBO, then the VADERSTAD. Then after that, we have the FARMET SOFTER 11 PS. That one requires 330 horsepower to use and has a working width of 10.5 meters. Then we have the BEDNAR SWIFTERDISC XE 18400 Mega. This one requires 580 horsepower to use and has a working width of 18.4 meters, making it, ridiculously long or wide for the working width there. That's a ridiculous sized disc. And then our largest one, horsepower requirement wise, is going to be the KINZE MACH TILL 412. That requires 615 horsepower to use and has a significantly smaller working width of 12 meters. So an interesting order here. I was going to do it just strictly by working width, but then I decided I'd do horsepower instead because I have all the power and my will may be capricious and it may not, but it's my prerogative one way or the other. So that is the order in which we'll be doing it. As per usual, I have paired up appropriately sized tractors with each disc, so I tried to find the one that has the closest horsepower to exactly on it. For most of them, we got it, and for the ones we didn't, we're less than 4 horsepower off, and we always go over, not under, so none of these are underpowered for what they have. So our first disc is going to be getting pulled by a Massey Ferguson, our second one by a Kubota, our third one by a Steyr, fourth one by a John Deere, fifth one by the Big Claws horse, and then our sixth one, and the largest, at least as far as horsepower requirement goes, will be getting pulled by the Fendt 1162 Vario. So quite a few variations in tractors. We have crab steer for the claws, but wheels. We have tracks for the Fendt, but non-articulating, and then just standard rigid frame front wheel assist tractors for all the rest. So we're just going to do it like we always do, and we're going to use 2 of my larger test fields for these. So we'll be using these 2 fields here that you can see I'm circling around. They're exactly the same size, and they are both perfect rectangles, so they are good to compare against each other. This will allow us to run one disc in it, and while that field is being retilled so it can be disked again, we can test the next one on the next one. So that's how we're going to be doing it. So we're just going to start off with our Ferguson and our little disc. Like I said, I almost did the other one, but that field is way too big. It would have taken me like literally an entire day to disc that field. So let's just get over there with this one and test it out. All right, so we've arrived at our field, and as you can see, it's freshly plowed. That will be the state that we test each one of these discs in. It will complete the entire field before we're done. I will be recording this in 20x game speed speed, and I'll probably be speeding it up even more when I edit the video, just so, you know, it doesn't take you forever to watch it. But I will post at the end of each field's completion, I will post the time it took in 20x game speed for each disc to finish that field. And in that way, you can accurately compare each one to each other, you know. So I hope that makes sense. I will be letting the AI do it, so that way I don't accidentally fudge the results by doing a slightly different method for each one, you know. So yeah, we're just gonna get down to it. I'll speed her up and we'll record it. Woo-wee! And we definitely have set a standard with that first tractor. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't feel like it took an eternity, but maybe like half an eternity. So that'll be fun. We're gonna reset that field. I'll get the plow running on there, and we'll queue up our next biggest disc on our other field just to the right there. So we'll pick it up when we're ready to start that test. All right, so here's our next tractor. We're on the field to the left now. We've got our plow. Hopefully, yep, he's going over there. So we're gonna do the same thing as before. We have our Kubota and our second biggest plow, at least horsepower wise, and we're gonna see how long this one takes. So same as before, I'll be running it in 20x speed, and we'll show you the time at the end. So enjoy. Well, that felt a lot faster. So I have not, I did use this disc a little bit when I first started in FS25, but I had made the mistake of getting the cedar attached to it, and then for some reason, the AI didn't work real great with it, so I hadn't used it. But honestly, I like it. I love the diamond shape, and at the end, it seems like we missed like absolutely nothing, and it was very, very efficient to use. Plus, it does not require a lot of horsepower for the width that we get, so this is an early front runner for me. I don't know if I'm going to say any ones are better than this, but honestly, just for pure shallow disking, this one might be kind of the GOAT. But, you know, we'll get our field reset. Well, we'll get this one started as soon as that one's done, and we will test our next disc. So stay tuned for that. All right, we're ready to start the next one. You didn't see it, but it takes so long to reset these fields. I wish there was a manual save option in this game, but like a manual save and reload option, but there's not. So we're just going to get our third one going now. Remember, this one has a slightly narrower working width, but requires higher horsepower. So, you know, that may be a lose-lose, but whatever the case may be, let's just see how long it takes. Well, that certainly felt slower. So the good thing about this disc is that it has a narrower working width and requires more horsepower to use. But on the bright side, it might also be more expensive than the last one we looked at. So not great all around. Definitely felt a lot slower than that second disc. But we're going to get our fields resetting and we'll be moving on to our next one. So I guess well done for this test. All right, we got our, what's it, fourth biggest one now, this big fold out blue one. And we got our John Deere 7R tractor pulling it. So I am optimistic about this one. I would think it should be faster than our big folding flexible one and significantly faster than the last one. But, you know, same thing as usual. We'll let AI do it and we'll time it and then we'll have the answer. Well, that felt pretty quick. It, I would say maybe even faster than our flexible one that we tested, the second one. Definitely faster than the third by quite a bit. But overall, not a whole lot of complaints with that. Went pretty smoothly. It cornered a little weird, and you can see, I'm not sure if that's a missed spot or just some sort of a weird indentation, but I'd say that one was an improvement over, well, certainly the third, but definitely the first and possibly the second. So I'm not going to declare a GOAT yet, but obviously when I'm editing the video, I'll be adding in all the times and stuff, and so it'll be much easier to quantify that way. anyway. But that's our fourth one. Let's move on to our fifth one. All right, we've got our really wide one with our claws going. This one is our next movement up, at least as far as horsepower is concerned. My theory is maybe this one might be the fastest one. Hard to say, but it is really wide. So let's give this one a try. Just like always, we're going to time it and, you know, kind of just speed through it. So we'll see what it looks like. Well, that went fairly quick, and I was actually surprised because a couple of those times I totally thought we were going to miss something, but no, it worked out pretty well. That definitely has a very wide working width, and, you know, going to be kind of hard to beat that, but our second field's almost ready, and we're going to test our next and last disc harrow on that field, so stay tuned. All right, and here we have our disc with the most, or the highest horsepower requirement, this one requiring 615, which is insane. You might be able to tell this has a narrower working width than the last one we tested, so, again, we're probably going to fall into the category that we did with our second and thirds, where this one's just not better, you know? But anyway, well, I'm not going to put in too much of a bet before we get to the end. Maybe for some reason it's faster. I don't think it's going to be. But yeah, let's just test it out and watch. See what the time is. And there we go, got done with that. So that actually did not feel that much longer than the last one that we did. So I guess we'll have to see, you know, exactly what it comes down to. Obviously, if it's, you know, the same speed or slower, it's just frankly not worth it. It's a more expensive piece of equipment, or at least, actually, I don't remember if the equipment itself is more expensive, but it requires a much larger tractor, which is then a more expensive piece of equipment. So either way, it's probably not as good of a deal because it did not feel significantly faster. And the other downside of it is it takes up more space to store it. So that one that we had pulling with the claws, that one is, when it's all folded up, long and narrow, whereas this one is quite a bit more boxy. Plus, it collides, see, like, it looked like I was clear there, but it collides weird. So I've noticed that when I'm trying to park it in my shed, that you got to get way away from something. You see this? It's still pulling on that disc. It's got this invisible thing that is like reaching out and grabbing with it. So I don't love this disc. So even if it was around the same speed, I would still choose whatever brand this yellow one was that I cannot remember. BEDNAR. I would choose the big BEDNAR one over it. Plus, like I said, it requires a substantially smaller tractor, and so therefore you save some money and stuff on that. But with all that being said, that is the end of our disc test video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was useful if you were, you know, for some reason up in the air between what disc you wanted to use. But that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.